Well, welcome back to Everyday Empowerment English, where we help you not only learn English, but also feel confident speaking it. I'm Mia.
And I'm Alex. Today, we are tackling a big challenge for many English learners: confidence, or rather the lack of it.
So raise your hand if you've ever frozen mid-sentence, felt your heart race, or thought, what if I sound stupid? We've all been there.
We hear you, and you're not alone. Speaking English confidently can feel like a huge hurdle.
But here's the good news: speaking confidence isn't about luck. It is a skill. And like grammar or vocabulary, skills can be learned, practiced, and improved.
Exactly. And today we're tackling why it's hard to feel confident and sharing 5 daily habits that will boost your English speaking confidence.
Are you ready to transform your fear into power? Let's get started. Let's start by understanding what often holds us back. One major barrier is the fear of social judgment.
Oh yeah, that classic worry about what other people think. You might wonder, are they judging my mistakes, my accent? That fear can be very paralyzing.
Well, exactly. And you know what? That fear actually triggers your brain's alarm system, your amygdala. It's like your brain is saying, danger. Avoid speaking to stay safe.
But guess what? We can actually weaken that fear response, and that's where habit number 1 comes in: micro exposures.
Micro exposures, can you explain what that means?
Basically, starting super small. Every day, try to have just one tiny English interaction that feels really low pressure. Think things like chatbots online. You can just type in English, no pressure there.
I like that. And then perhaps try practicing ordering coffee in English, even if you feel a bit nervous.
Exactly. The idea is to gradually work your way up to longer, more challenging conversations.
So why does this gradual exposure work so well?
Because each small positive experience tells your brain, hey, speaking English isn't dangerous, I can handle this. Over time, you start rewiring that fear response, and speaking English becomes less scary and more natural.
That's really powerful. By taking small steps, you build confidence and reduce the fear of judgment. It all starts with those tiny interactions.
Right? Each micro exposure is a step toward becoming a more confident speaker. Even if it seems small, it makes a big difference over time.
And now, let's move on to barrier number 2, perfectionism.
Oh, that's another major confidence killer for English learners, isn't it? Many of us feel we must get everything perfect right from the start.
Exactly. It's common to think, if I can't speak perfectly, why should I even try? That kind of thinking is very demotivating.
And the irony is that perfectionism actually stops you from making progress. When you're learning something new, expecting perfection is simply impossible.
So, how do we overcome that need for perfection?
That's where habit number 2 comes in: mistake journaling.
A mistake journaling, that sounds interesting. What's that all about?
It's actually really simple but super powerful. After an English conversation, take a moment to write down 2 things. First, write down one thing you did well, just one win from the conversation. And then, write down one thing you feel you could maybe improve on next time, learning opportunity. This way, you focus on both the positive aspects and the lessons you can learn from your mistakes.
I see. So, by journaling your mistakes, you can reframe them as opportunities for growth rather than failures.
Exactly. Instead of beating yourself up over errors, you're actively learning from them. You're turning those mistakes into really valuable feedback that helps you grow. It helps build what we call a growth mindset. You start to see English learning as a process of continuous progress, not some impossible quest for instant perfection.
Now, let's talk about barrier number 3, negative self-talk.
Right. This is about that constant stream of negative thoughts you might have about your English, saying, my English is terrible, I sound so bad, or I'll never be fluent.
And all that negativity can really chip away at your confidence over time. You might even start to believe them.
Exactly. That's why habit number 3 is designed to combat negative self-talk. Speak daily, even if it's just to yourself.
Speak to yourself out loud in English.
Yes, it might feel a bit strange at first, but trust me, it works. Every day, try to speak aloud in English for 5 to 10 minutes. Describe what you're doing, what you're thinking, or what you see around you. Keep a steady flow of words, even if you make mistakes.
But how does talking to yourself in English actually build confidence?
Well, it's all about building what we call self-efficacy, basically your belief in your own ability to use English. It also really helps to normalize the sound of your own voice speaking English. By practicing daily, you become more comfortable with your own voice and with making mistakes. Each time you speak, you prove to yourself, I can speak English. This regular practice gradually replaces fear with confidence.
That's really powerful. But turning negative self-talk into a habit of speaking helps you build a positive mindset and makes English feel more natural. Now, let's move to barrier number 4, cognitive overload.
This one is a very practical challenge. In real conversations, English can come at you so quickly that you feel completely overwhelmed, like your brain can't process it all fast enough.
Right. It's like your brain just freezes up trying to understand and respond at the same time.
Totally. That's why habit number 4 is designed to help with this overload. Learn in chunks by focusing on phrases rather than individual words.
Boy, chunks of English. What does that mean exactly?
Think of them as ready-made phrases or sentence starters that you can use in many conversations instead of memorizing endless single words. Learn useful phrases like, could you clarify that? Or, what do you mean by? Or even, that's a really interesting point. These become part of your language toolkit.
I see. And how do these phrases help reduce cognitive overload?
Because once you have them memorized, they become almost automatic. You don't need to stop and construct a sentence from scratch every time you speak. You simply pull out these chunks, which frees up your mental energy. That means you can focus on understanding the rest of the conversation. Listen carefully and respond more fluently and confidently.
A less mental strain means you can speak more naturally. That really sounds like a smart way to ease into conversations without feeling overwhelmed. And now let's move on to our final habit, overcoming comparison bias.
Right? Comparison bias is when you constantly compare yourself to other English speakers, especially those who are very fluent. This often makes you feel discouraged and think, I'm just not as good as them.
And that's totally unfair because everyone's English journey is different. We all start at different points.
Absolutely. That's why habit number 5 is all about breaking free from that comparison trap by using progress tracking.
Well, progress tracking, how does that work as a daily habit for building confidence?
It's simple. Instead of comparing yourself to super fluent speakers, compare yourself to your own past self. Every day or week, take a few moments to reflect on your progress. Think, just last month, I couldn't understand a basic podcast, but now I understand much more. Or a few months ago, I was too nervous to join a conversation, but now I participate more. Writing these reflections down makes your progress feel real and motivates you to keep improving.
That really shifts the focus to your personal growth, doesn't it? It gives you clear evidence of how far you've come and builds genuine self-belief.
Absolutely. By tracking your progress, you build long-term motivation and your confidence grows naturally. And that's what really fuels your confidence to keep speaking and improving.
Before we wrap up, let's focus on the most important words to remember from today's episode to really help you boost your vocabulary. Hurdle, a difficulty you need to overcome. Example, many learners find speaking in front of native speakers a big hurdle to overcome. Barrier, something that blocks your progress. Example, a fear of judgment can be a powerful barrier to speaking English confidently. Amygdala, the part of your brain linked to fear. Example, when we feel judged, our amygdala can trigger anxiety. A micro-exposure is small, low-stress steps to face your fears. Example, starting with micro-exposures like chatting with chatbots is a great first step. But gradually, slowly, step by step. Example, you'll improve gradually if you practice these habits every day. Rewiring, changing how something like your brain works. Example, consistent practice can help with rewiring your brain's fear response to speaking English. Perfectionism, wanting to be perfect, avoiding mistakes. Example, let go of perfectionism. Mistakes are part of learning. Irony, something that is the opposite of what you would expect. Example, the irony is that perfectionism actually stops you from making progress. A reframe, to change how you see something. Example, try to reframe mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures. Self-efficacy. Belief in your ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task. Example, it's all about building what we call self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to use English. But normalize, to make something seem normal or usual. Example, it also really helps to normalize the sound of your own voice speaking English. Chunks, phrases, not single words. Example, learning English in chunks like ready-made phrases makes speaking easier. The cognitive overload, when your brain has too much information to process at once and feels overwhelmed. Example, feeling cognitive overload in conversations is normal when you're learning a language. Try learning in chunks to reduce it. Oh, wow, Alex, we covered a lot of ground today. Let's quickly remind everyone of those top 5 daily habits for confident English speaking one last time.
Absolutely, Mia. So remember to boost your confidence daily with micro exposures, mistake journaling, speaking daily even to yourself, but learning in chunks and progress tracking.
These are your daily tools for building real speaking confidence, English learners. Remember, it's all about consistent practice and taking those small steps each day.
We are excited to hear which habit you are going to start with. Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing about your progress and your experiences. Do you have any questions? Let us know in the comments too.
Well, yes, we're always here to support you on your English journey. We'll see you in our next episode. Until then, keep practicing, keep growing, and empower your voice.